60 minutes on to 11 o'clock here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. You're locked on to WEFM 99.9 Clean Fresh Sound, and this is your Turn program. Remember, Your Turn is an interactive program, so the numbers to call are 457-9997 if you're calling from a local landline, 532-9997 if you're calling from a digital cell phone, and you can also send us a message or call us on WhatsApp at 457-9997. The Your Turn program is being hosted by Mr. Cecil Ryan, Mr. Philbert, and Mr. Joel Providence. Good morning to you, Cecil.
Good morning to you, Karen, and good morning to all our listeners on the WEFM platform, and also on the Star Radio, Star FM platform, and by extension, Garifuna Radio. Good to be with you this morning. As you can tell, we were kind of waiting and raring to go. Yes, we were on kind of not really on scheduled time, but you're on time this morning. So we're happy to be with you this morning. Today is September 21, 2025, another bright and upful day in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I have a lot more to say, but let me give way to my colleague to tell you more about this wonderful day and what you have lined up. Philbert?
Yes, Cecil, thank you very much, and good morning to all. Joel, our guest, whom will be introduced in a while. It's good to be back on another edition of Your Turn. And as usual, we're going to lead you into an interesting discussion on a particular issue and other issues as they arise. Yes, yeah. So, Joel?
Thank you very much, Bijan. Cecil, good morning, listeners to the program. Regrettably, I am going through one of those periods when there's a little bit of brain fog, so you got to excuse me this morning if I seem to be somewhat stuttering a little bit from time to time, but that's how it works out. But nevertheless, I am obliged and certainly glad to be here on this program, and I would like to be able to participate fully, even if I have to do more listening than talking.
All right. We have lined up for the main topic this morning. We're going to be looking at the state of the marijuana industry in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and we have two experts to lead us, Dr. Gerald Thompson and Mr. Mapp. We're going to hear from them in a while, but in the meantime, as usual, there are one or two issues we normally like to raise, and I want to. Well, before I give it to you to raise those issues, I realized for a long time. Remember our trademark thing on this Your Turn used to be shouting up everybody throughout the country in every constituency. We haven't done that for a long time. I started last week actually now to Windward. Didn't do very well because I missed out one or two communities. But I want to do a little bit this morning again. So I want to give a shout out to some folks in North Leeward. You know, as much as our good friends are here. Well, one of our Your Turn colleagues knows the area like the back of his hand, so he might be able to come in. But I just want to give shout out to, yesterday I was at the hospital and I met a lady. She recognized me, she knew me, she knows who I am, and she told me her name is Mrs. Franklin. She's from Chateau Belair, but she lives in Kingstown. No, that's the most I know of her. She saw me, so I just want to give her a shout out this morning. But I don't know if she listens to the program. We didn't discuss that. Actually went to the hospital to visit my cousin. So yes, I just want to give her a shout out. And for some of the folks in some of the villages in Chateau, and I remember last time I was there, around the Coles Hill area, I saw this sign saying, "Welcome to Coles Hill, home to pasture, Point Funty, Coal Road, Gugu Hala, Sprout Head, Gutter, Bottom Village, Corner, Pond Hill, and Gate." Don't know where all those community are. That's it, Joel.
Westwood?
Well, I don't know if it's close. It's close to Westwood. But these names, I see the sign right at when you get going up going up towards Westwood. I saw the sign, so I capture the names in a photo. So I still have the photo. So I just want to hit up those folks there. It's close to the Coles Hill area. It's in the Coles Hill area actually. So this is a taste for today, and next week, Lord's willing, I'll come back and give a fuller coverage of North Leeward, really. So I just want to hail up those folks for now. I want to hail up folks in this.
Cecil, I know you haven't introduced me, but you struck a little nerve there.
Oh yeah,
And
you're from Google Holla?
I'm telling you, there is such a lot of history.
Yes.
I want to bring up Spouthead. You know,
Spouthead should be on the list.
No, you mentioned it.
Did I mention
Yes,
Spouthead?
yes. You mentioned Spouthead.
Oh yes, right. I mentioned Spouthead.
And Coles Hill is on a ridge, but there's a beach down below called Coles Bay. And it's a beautiful beach if you could get there. It's very little access by boat. As a matter of fact, a lot of the land was owned by, I think recently was owned by the Ford family
And before the Ford family?
well, Kitchener Providence.
Oh,
Yes,
I thought it might have been Providence.
No, Kitchener Providence owns a lot of land above, but that whole estate, when they grew products like cane and so forth, they had no way of getting it down to the beach. So they built a slide, a wooden slide, where they would put all the cane into a chute and it would slide down. And when it reached about 800 yards, it would spout out. And that's why they call it Spouthead. You understand?
Okay.
And it's fascinating when you
Spout out into the sea?
It will spout out and land just before the beach there, so that then they could then take it onto the boat and cart it off. It's a fascinating Coles Hill. You know, I mean, the history of that in terms of a priest who was there, it was named after him and all this kind of stuff. It's a fascinating pasture. When you Google Holla and all of it, you know, is to know a little bit about some of this. And I'm glad you're doing this because there are a number of these villages that have some real peculiar history that go back a long way.
You know, these things excite me, eh? These names.
When Joel talked about who owned it before, I wasn't sure if he wanted me to bring up Kitchener Providence, if that's what he was referring
From
to.
Kitchener, then it went to Seaford Providence. And
Seaford.
others.
Yes, that's right. Well, I did mention Seaford, yeah.
Anyway, if you don't know who live there right now, but we just want to give them a shout out and hope that they're listening to Issue at Hand, and hope that also WEFM is their favorite radio station.
Yeah.
So this is where the things, knowledge is distributed, if you like, or we try to educate people as much as possible. So on this program and largely WEFM, so I just want to hail them up. Want to hail up those who are listening in the Southern Grenadines as well. Just to give my friend Lorna, Bob, and her daughter. Can never remember her name sometimes. I think it's I called her name last time, but she know who I mean. Give them a shout. And her mom, give them a shout up this morning. I don't know if she's listening. The folks in Campbell, greetings and welcome to our program this morning. If you living in Ashton, greetings to you. Welcome to the program. Also, all the areas in Union, of course, Clifton. Good morning to you and welcome to the program this morning. Dana is the name I was trying to remember. Dana. That's Dana is part of the cultural group in the Union Island. The drumming group, the dance group. Dana is a member of that group. And in fact, she was in Barbados with the delegation to Carifest just a while ago. So just want to give them a shout up this morning. I also want to shout out Terry Bino in Canouan and all the folks in Canouan who are listening to our program and who listen to WEFM as a matter of course. Good morning to you and we welcome you to our program this morning. Shout out also to the people in Byro. Greetings and welcome to the program this morning. And those who are involved, the front line of politics, as in Chevron Stewart and Mr. Olivier and all those folks. We want to give them a bright shout up this morning. I'm sure Ms. Stewart herself might be up and about, having had a very energetic office opening last night. Saw some of it on the live. So just want to give them a shout up this morning and hope that things are moving well in Union Island. I haven't been there for a while, but I certainly when they're going to open that wonderful ferry terminal facility on the market, I am hoping that it be possible for me to go there on that occasion. So that's my healing up for now. I want to shout out Miss Harold. Good morning to Miss Harold. Hope you're doing well this morning. Also, all the way up in Overland, our friend Bristol. We haven't heard from him for a while. Shout out to Bristol this morning. We hope you're doing well. And all the other. Even Stephen, good morning to you. And welcome to our program. We hope you're listening. In fact, we know you're listening to us this morning. And all the other folks who listen to the program. We welcome you very warmly, and we look forward to your participation in our program this morning. Peter?
Yes, Cecil, I just want to quickly and briefly make reference to a development in the Caribbean area. United States, I understand, has blown up a third ship in the region. So I'm wondering if there is a threat to the maritime environment in the Caribbean with these explosions, so on so far. I'm not hearing much being spoken about it. What the 3 vessels destroyed so far, apparently, according to the United States, they were involved in drug trafficking. Now, I'm losing my train of thought here.
No, but as you said last week, I remember you were saying after I read the editorial from the Barbados today, you were questioning about
There's no due process.
There's a new process. Due process is one of the things you said.
And I'm wondering whether or not we should be scared about traveling anywhere in the Caribbean Sea. If the United States think that a particular ship is loaded with cocaine or marijuana, as the case may be.
Well, in fact, when you raised this that particular issue last week, you had raised it in the context of fishing folks who. But I was hearing, I'm sure I heard it already someplace, that Trinidadian fisher folks are scared to go out to fish. Because who is to say they may not stray in the areas, and then for whatever reason, that's it. Their boats get blown out, and there may be other fishers in that part of the region. Suddenly, Guyanese, same thing could happen to them.
It could be a regular excursion too.
Yeah, it could be a regular excursion. And even as we're talking about it, it is a serious thing. It's a very serious thing, because how does the U.S. determine that these vessels are carrying drugs, and that these drugs are headed for the United States? How can you determine it? It seems to me you'd have to intercept the vessels, capture them, if you like. Although if they're in the international waters, you can't do that. But let's say at least do that and interrogate the people on the boat, rather than you see them and you just blow them out of the water. It's a serious thing. I want people should think about this thing. It's a serious thing. So I don't know, Bijan,
What can CARICOM do, for instance, in response to these kind of activities?
Well, I think that the CARICOM's Minister of Foreign Affairs, they've written a letter to the Secretary of State of the United States requesting a meeting, an urgent meeting to discuss the matter with the Ministers of Foreign Affairs of the region. As far as I heard as of yesterday or Friday, they had not yet received a response to this request for a meeting. But beyond the meeting, what can be done? Let's see.
My concern, though, even before the meeting is that the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Kamala Cecil, she already expressed support for the U.S. action. And in fact, some of our ministers have done the same thing, expressed support. Well, they would have to support her, and by extension, supporting the U.S. government and Trump in particular for the military actions that they've taken. And the thing about it, apparently, from what I hear on the international news, Trump brags about it. I mean, could you think of it?
If I may just add something for persons to monitor, is the caution, I'm told, being expressed by the People's Republic of China. They are very dependent, or more dependent today, on sourcing their crude requirements from Venezuela. And in fact, right now, they are the largest purchaser of petroleum products from Venezuela. And it's going to say, well, look, we're going to have a presence in these parts and exercise care and caution. And, it raises the question whether or not, as we spoke about the Caribbean being a zone of peace before, but it might very well end up with the flip side, where it could very well be the source or the starting point of something of a global nature, which could easily become catastrophic. So let us hope that good sense prevails and so forth. We spoke as well about the Monroe Doctrine and what it means, and we just invite persons just to Google the Monroe Doctrine. There are four basic points to it, and see what it means to the United States then in 1823 and what it means to the United States 202 years later and so forth. Just read about it and see what it holds for us and what the rest of us in this region, and generally what is the position of the present government of the White House in terms of its approach, towards drug trafficking and other matters of interest and concern to them.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple other things, but after you.
Yeah, I just want to, on that particular issue, I just want to urge our listeners to if you have a copy of the Searchlight newspaper for this weekend, just on page 8 is where they have the editorial, and it talks about that in the editorial. War engulfing us with a question mark. It's worth reading, and from that you may wish to go on to other things, including the reference which Joel gave about the Monroe Doctrine. It's important to be informed on these matters and take positions really on them, and see how this particular one can affect us, can affect your living and your life. Certainly also can affect your production. So it's in our interest to be informed on these matters and to take action. Yeah, Joel?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I'll try to be brief. First of all, I want to commend last week we had on the program the CEO of the SVG Tourism Authority, and she spoke briefly about what was to take place in regard to the State of the Industry event at the Methodist Church Hall in Kingstown. I would like to say that it was an excellent event. There are a lot of good things, positive things that came out. I want to commend the Minister of Tourism himself, Carlos James, and the presentation of the panelists, all of them made a significant contribution. It as if, as I mentioned to someone, it suggested a degree of maturity and sensitivity to the needs and the development needs of the tourism industry in St. Vincent and Grenadines, and that we have people who are knowledgeable and competent to address these issues and take us forward. Not just persons within the halls of power, but certainly general people involved in the industry. But by and large, I thought that it was a very good, very, very good event. And I certainly would like to commend everyone who was involved, beginning with the Minister of Tourism, but certainly everyone else would have participated. It suggests to me that the state of the industry, we are progressing, there's change taking place, and it's just for all of us now, as they were invited, to see how best all of us at all levels can participate in this change for our individual and collective benefit. The other thing that I just wanted to mention is, this is going back some time ago, the Prime Minister Gonsalves had made a comment in relation to the massive supermarkets and the need for discussions with them and so forth. And he's making the point that, yeah, the investment and so on is welcome, but certainly if you are going to be investing in St. Vincent and that there's an expectation of a certain standard and profile that you should have and project. But I just wanted to add something else to it, that to my mind, while we welcome such investment, we just got to recognize that if you are invested in St. Vincent, you're not engaged in export activity. You're not necessarily bringing specific technology that is not presently held by Vincentian entrepreneurs or government or anything like that, and so forth. You're not by chance introducing something that we generally duly need per se. I would like to think that we should invite such foreign investors to directly invest, but allow where practicable and allow under circumstances best suited to them and to the people of St. Vincent and Grenadines, provision for Vincentian participation in the ownership of these businesses. We're not saying that Vincentians must own 51% or 50% or even 49%, but a significant must be in place. And I think that it will redound to the benefit of such enterprises. If you look at this market, allow for local participation and let the Vincentians who are interested crunch the numbers and see if it makes sense for them to participate as well, right? I'm not necessarily speaking in terms of multi-million-dollar hotels where we may not necessarily have that. And that is not necessary in those circumstances. But certainly, if you invest in here, you virtually not necessarily bringing in foreign exchange, and you targeted a local market, you're not necessarily bringing significant technology per se, then I think that we should really allow for local participation. That's just my view on it. I know that the People's Republic of China has always pushed this kind of thing as they pursue to develop, and you see what the transformation that has taken place in China in the last 25, People's Republic, in the last 25, 30 years. I want to make another quick comment on a discussion I had with a coconut vendor in Kingston recently, and I'll be very brief. There's coconut water sold in bottles, and you can get them outside supermarkets and some corner streets and so forth now. The price was, by and large, I think the 1 liter, I believe it is, was for $10. And then the price moved up to $12 because we're told that the cost of the bottles went up a notch, right? Then So I spoke with, there's a gentleman plying his trade at the crossroads between say, Ace Hardware, Correz Lumber, and so forth. So I asked him for 2 bottles of coconut water. So I took out $20 and was looking for $4 more to add to it. And he told me, no, it's $30. So the price has gone up to $15 for a bottle in at least certainly from this vendor. So I said, well, why the price has gone to $15? And he said, look, you now have to pay another 50 cents for a bottle. So because it has moved, he has had to add on 50 cents, right, to the cost, right? He moved his price from $12 to $15 and so on. And these are sometimes the things that are happening. And so when we talk about inflation and so on, and I know sometimes we tend to knock the distributive trade, but by and large, it is not so much the distributive trade where we have to look at address and so on, because we just simply say, well, okay, we have to go find the next price or price setting. That way you can make sure that you're dealing with paper dollars, because that's the only thing I could think of. You say, well, boy, you only want to handle paper money. So he will say, give me a $10 and a $5, and then you can get this bottle and so on. But there's such a variation in the price of coconut water that if you go in the rural area, or what we used to call the rural area, things have changed today, that the price is significantly different if you're buying it in Kingston. It is the same thing, Dr. Thompson, with produce coming from Rosal and Chateaublay, 6 o'clock in the morning, to sell in Kingston in the vegetable markets and so forth. So they may come down, they might sell it for $4 and say $4.50 for a pound of a particular item. And that item ends up being $7 in the vegetable market. And you ask yourself, how these margins work, and so forth. And these are some of the things that we have to address. Now, we might say, well, okay, I don't know how much money they're taking home at the end of the day. That is why they have to put on 40% or 50% or whatever the case might be. But certainly sometimes these are some of the things that we have to be able to look at, and what would actually push up the cost of living. My last thing that I just wanted to mention very quickly, last week we mentioned about the World Athletic Championship that's taken place, or just concluded today actually, in Tokyo, Japan. And we had 2 Vincentian athletes participating in Shafiko Maloney and Handel Roban. On this particular occasion, neither made it beyond the first round, the preliminaries. And they put their soul and effort into it. I believe that their technical approach towards running the race got in the way, but I just want them to know that Vincentians are still very much with them and celebrate. There's still many more opportunities for them to achieve great things. They have run faster races in the past, in the recent past even, and that we would be behind them all the way. And my last comment to you in the audience, just wanted to say that regrettably on Wednesday last, I was not able to attend the funeral service of a former colleague and former teacher, Joy Brown. And I just wanted to say that St. Vincent and the Grenadines lost a good soldier in the fight for social development, for our education of our young people in particular. I am privileged to have been her student. I've been privileged to be in a co-league teaching at the St. Vincent and Grenadines. Teaching at the St. Vincent Grammar School, or going to the Boys Grammar School, which I would still love to say, Gerald, Boys Grammar School. And it really, I learned a lot from her, and there are lots of things you find within the textbook that you get from Joy, you got from Joy. And there are a lot of things not in the textbook about life generally that you also got from her. And I just like to say that her passing is certainly observed by many, and St. Vincent is a little bit poorer for her departing the scene at this stage.
Yeah. Sorry, just reading some of my notes coming in. Yeah, I think I have a few more, one or two more to raise, and I'll raise them in a while. But I think I would like to introduce our guests who are here, and they've been sitting there, and I think we've been a little bit unmannerly to be speaking around them and not introduce them. So I want to now introduce. Well, the main topic for today's discussion is the status of the marijuana industry in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And we're going to be discussing some aspects of the festival, Cannabis Festival, which is coming up. So I want to now introduce Dr. Thompson, Gerald Thompson, who's going to speak to that. And also he could then introduce his colleague, Mr. Mapp. Just to introduce, we'll come back to talk about this.
Yes. Well, there's very little to say about Gerald Thompson. Dr. Gerald Thompson. I'm the CEO of the Medicinal Cannabis Authority. And we for short, we say the MCA, Medicinal Cannabis Authority. And I have with me very able, hardworking, you could say somewhat the driver at the MCA, Mr. Tyrrell Mapp, who's notably an economist, a person engaged in finance, but he has really blossomed in many ways. Let me go back. A former island scholar, and an individual who I think has really made his mark. So there's very little to say about myself. I really want to introduce my colleague, and then all my other members of staff. And so we are here, and we're going to talk, of course, about Cannabis 2025.
Cannabis.
Yes.
Cannabis.
And
right. So
let me, as I've introduced you, let me ask Tyrrell Mapp to say a few words and so forth.
Yes.
Well, Dr. Thompson, I want to thank you for the kind words about me and my achievements thus far. I think he has covered it all, and to you.
Cecil. No, man, people want to hear more of your voice. No, you're going to come back in fully later on. So they would have, I'm sure when you come back, you'll have a lot to say.
Yes.
So, all right.
Yes.
Well, thanks for the time being, anyway. And I took it to have you, both of you, introduced, because I realized you may wish to comment on some of the things we're saying, and we didn't formally introduce you. So before we get to the main topic, there are still one or two things, and even those that have gone already, you may wish to comment on. Although you did a little bit of that, Dr. Thompson.
Yes.
But before you do,
Joel had mentioned a few things, but don't get me started.
We got to get you started.
I don't want to. We want to focus on.
We have time for that.
Interested topics there. But
we have time for that. But I want to respond to some of the things that Joel said. One in particular, he mentioned the tourism conference that took place.
Yes.
And he also mentioned something later on about sharing in companies and development and so on. But I don't know. Foreign investment. But I want to play this one.
I'll give you an announcement today, hot off the press.
I love when he breaks news on stage.
We're building
Nothing makes a gift happier when we can break some news.
We're just acquiring a piece of land in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where we just opened our last sandals last year. And it's been so extraordinary. It's just the most amazing island in the Caribbean. Very untouched, off the beaten path. Never had a major international airport until 2017. So it's like right there, accessible. But and we love that. So when we went into St. Vincent last year, we increased airlift 300%. Google search went up 88%. Wow. They call it the Sandals effect. All tides rise. Everyone's ADRs went up. Everyone's thriving. It feels really good to be able to do it. So we're gonna build a beaches resort there.
Oh, fantastic! It's like the Taylor Swift effect, but it's a Sandals effect.
It's a Swift effect. But
So I just wanted to play in response to the point that Joel.
Let me say something here.
Well, first of all, let me ask Joel if you want to make a quick response.
Oh, but in the context of the point that I was making, I said sandals fall in a particular class of.
I wasn't talking necessarily about the investment in. I was talking about from the conference point of view, and the announcement by the minister.
Oh yeah, well, absolutely. But this was an announcement that it was like news that everyone knew quite for a number of months before, because we actually heard the news before it was officially the news. But certainly it says a lot to where we are going. Of course, we've got to be mindful, and we need to expand, because we don't want, if I may say, the development of the tourism product to revolve around or be based solely on one single investor. We have to be able to diversify and spread and so forth, and which is, I believe, is the intention. But as we do that and so forth, and as we look at what is likely to happen now under the leeward corridor, we also have to be mindful as well that we address the other factors that allow Vincentians still to enjoy what is there, even though as we benefit from the growth of the industry, and as a result we develop consequentially. But we just got to make sure and so forth.
Yes, I attended.
You were at the conference?
This actually, both Cyril and I were there, and I was impressed myself in terms, as you said, the way it was put together and the announcement had been coming in terms of the 4 new hotels. Is impressive, because you've brought up the whole issue of North Leeward and so forth and Coast Hill. That particular announcement about a new proposed hotel in relation to Cumberland, right, is also a breath of fresh air. I know there has been several proposals before in relation to hotel development at that particular site that didn't really go forward for one reason or the other. But I thought, and from my own knowledge of what's really taking place, I think this is a very important initiative. And Cumberland is a magnificent site and offers itself really as a place. It's just around the corner from Coles Bay. It is, adjoining Coast Hill. So it has some impact. But I want to go back to 2 other hotels. One that's been built already, the Holiday Inn and the Marriott, because both have taken a model that Owen Arthur developed about the government being the major investor, constructing the hotel and inviting a name brand, a Holiday Inn and a Marriott, to basically manage and operate. They have shares in it and will be receiving some of the revenue and so. But I think
meaning the government.
Yeah, the government
of Barbados.
The government of Barbados initiated with the Hilton Hotel and several other hotels. And this was at a time when you didn't see major hotel chains like Hilton or Marriott actually going and doing construction themselves. And so wanted some other entity to build it. They would manage it. They would basically do that sort of matter. And so this may be of that particular model. It's a model that worked with the Marriott in St. Kitts that was built by the Kittitian government, from what I understand, and that has been relatively successful. But I think what Joel may have been talking to is how private sector entities, not necessarily government, could actually find their way into, hotel development.
Sorry, Dr. Tom, I didn't want to spend too much time on that.
I know. The reason why I brought it up is because there has also been a cry that there should be a cap on foreign investment and on hotels, and hotels like the beaches would not be allowed or should not be allowed and so forth. And I'm sure Joel isn't necessarily saying that, but I do agree that there should be opportunities like what's happened with Hotel Alexandrina, like what's happened with the Maya Hotel, like what's happened with the expansion at Beachcombers and so forth, where there's local ownership. And I think we'd like to see a lot more of that.
Cecil,
I was going to call a new map because before the program started, we're discussing a little bit
yes,
about the Cumberland idea. Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, so I received my training at the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, and I feel very fortunate to have been under the guidance and the management, the leadership of persons like Edmund Jackson, who is now the Director General of Finance, Maurice Edwards, Laura Anthony Brown, Ricardo Frederick. And I spent a lot of time studying the economy of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And if you look at the economic growth trajectory in the 1990s, when we had bananas in full bloom, we had economic growth around 5% averaging. And thereafter, in 2001 to 2020, we see the growth trajectory declining because the world economy and our local economy face so much shocks. We had 9/11, 2001. We had the global economic crisis. We ourselves had April storms, 2011, Thomas, and all those things impacted our growth trajectory. But over the last 5 years, the growth part of St. Vincent and the Grenadines has been impressive, to say the least. It's probably the strongest growth part the country ever experienced. In fact, the World Bank data shows that St. Vincent and the Grenadines has dominated in terms of growth, has been the second fastest growing economy in the region, above 5%, second only to Guyana that has discovered oil. And I wanted to put that all in context of tourism, because I too was at the conference, and the Minister of Finance, his response on the panel that tourism development must not be just for tourism. It must be that we develop the tourism industry so that it creates jobs, that it stimulates economic growth, and it has this multiplier effect on the economy. And you see it too from construction, because to get to a tourism product, you have to build the hotels, and the impact on the economy has been so amazing because of the tourism industry and the tourism driver. And I listened to the Minister of Tourism that while we are building out a tourism product, that we building it out in a sustainable way, that we don't go towards mass tourism too fast, and it impacts the environment, that we must preserve the environment for the future. So I too was very pleased with that conference. I learned a lot, and it echoed that in order for us to build this thing, we have to work together. And I want us to encourage persons, your listeners, that to build St. Vincent, we have to continue to work together. We have to put aside the egos and who have this big degree and PhDs. Those are the things that really, even for me as a young professional, that really hold us back, hold us from really getting St. Vincent to where we want to be. And that is what came out of that conference. And I hope it is not just, it's my wish, it is not just because we're on a platform and we want to sound good. I hope we really practice what we preach on that platform.
Mm-hmm. Two things. First of all, I'm one who holds to the view that education is the application of knowledge.
Yes.
If you can't apply your knowledge, what you learn, so you have no, to me, your education is meaningless. So it's really the application of knowledge.
Completely agree.
Yes. And the other thing you said that I wanted to, you said we have to work together.
Yes.
And when you say that, what do you mean? You mean the private sector and the government or the stakeholders? What exactly?
Our stakeholders have to work together. There is too much egos, too much infighting in development. That is what really makes development very frustrating. Too much of us feel that if my idea is not accepted, then I will pull myself out. And that really cripples things from my own experience my young experience in development, in trying to push things through. Too many projects, too many things take too long because of one simple issue, and egos, and we have to put aside our egos for the greater good. of society because the projects are bigger than all of us individually. That has been my experience.
You know,
thus
this is
far.
my reaction when you said that, because just before before you came into the studio, we were talking, Joel and three of us really, Joel, Pitcher, and myself were talking about the same thing. You know, the length of time, that unnecessary time that it takes to complete a project, and we were talking about that just before. So there you go. It's the people competing egos.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So Joel, that's all.
Yeah. Just yesterday, I was reading something online about the political systems in the world and the countries that are classified as dictatorships, right? And there's a long list, right? And on that list, they had China, and I thought to say, well, why China say, because we're talking about in terms of how the economies and so on develop and so forth. And I have spent a good bit of time in the People's Republic of China, going from Shanghai in the north down to Guangzhou and Shenzhen down to the south and so forth. And to my mind, yes, it may mean that the state controls certain things at the head and so forth. And the state apparatus doesn't change per se. But below, what happens in terms of the capitalist activity and so forth is actually people work together and so on, look to get the most out of the for development, for the good of themselves and the good of the Chinese economy. And I think that is what we got to do, that we're here. Our system of government is different to what prevails in China. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. There's not the discussion, no. But I'm just by and large saying that as the country is divided down the middle, where our economic and social development is concerned, we got to behave as if we have one common goal that we have to work together. And I'm just kind of just supporting your point. That's all. Don't let the individual egos get in the way. Do not get affiliation get in the way of progress either. Let us work together in relation to that particular common umbrella goal of the development of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Agreed.
Pijan, anything from you? No, you're okay. You're not holding back on us. I again, two more things I want to raise. One is that in this week's papers, I see again, unknowingly, the use of the term silly season. I see it from time to time. People use that to describe the period that we're in now. And it upsets me. And I want to extricate myself from that kind of, I don't know who they're referring to, but I'm certain, and I know the majority of Vincentians by and large are not part of the silly, quote unquote, silly season concept. They're describing the period of election. But strange enough, this is, from my own observation, this is the time, one of those times, there are about 3 times I recognize, but one of those times, when people are very creative in expressions, in songs, in dress, in everything, in organization. So I want to know what is silly about that. Secondly, this is a time when people make important decisions. Even the simple act of voting is a very important decision about their life, living, and production. That's how, for the next 5 years, they're making a decision to say who they want to carry them or who they want to lead them in terms of the country, the development of the country. How can that be silly? Well, how can that be categorized as silly season? I don't follow it. It's when people get more creative, more energetic, most creative. You may not like what they do or what they say, but that doesn't mean that they are silly. And when they say things, that they are silly. And when they do things, they are silly. It doesn't mean that.
But I think silly is generally a pejorative in this case.
Yes, I think it is.
But so I sorry, well, you answered your question, yes, like Joel. But the point is that why describe it as silly season when it is, to my mind, the most creative?
But I don't see it as silly season referring to the overall season. I don't think it's a
Well, I only see what they write.
Yeah, but the term it is being used, but I think it is applicable only to actions or statements that lack rationality, or what makes it being called ignorant and that kind of thing, and that really should not have any bearing on the process, the democratic process that we are confronting at this time. So I think it's not
But
about
Joel,
the whole.
I brought my thing is broader than that and deeper and wider than that.
But I don't
Because
think that's what
how
silly
could-
season is. They're
No,
applying it to.
no. From the time you characterize that or describe that as silly season, you're making a general thing. Silly season?
No, but they're being specific.
No. You read the articles again. I can refer to two this week. They're not specific. And that's where they put people. To me, the use of the term is very elitist, by the way.
I don't
Very
think so.
elitist.
I don't think so.
Very elitist. So where do you put yourself? If you are the describer of the season, where do you put yourself?
No, I think the person whoever makes the comment, they actually making a point that we are into the election season.
Well, say so. So we're into the election season.
No, but
don't say silly season.
No, but Cecil, they're not speaking of.
Joel.
Let me finish the
When people get into politics, decisions in Canada, in the UK, in the United States, wherever in the world, are they into silly season?
As well, yes.
How could you say that?
No, but the point I'm making, it is not describing the election season per se, but what takes place within it as a subset, that where some persons resort to making sort of statements and taking certain actions that should be regarded as ridiculous and really have no import where the overall democratic process and action is concerned.
So tell me something. When people do carnival, what happens? Those are not silly seasons?
I don't know if I should be responding to that because
But you don't have to.
Sure,
You
I don't
don't
want
have
to
to
go down
respond.
to that.
No,
that
because you see,
analysis.
you cannot extract out, because things may not happening in the way that you think things should happen. People may not behaving in the way that you think they should be behaving. Doesn't mean it is silly season. People are making important decisions, and when they express that decision, they may express it in song, they may express it in the way they dress, they may express it in the way they behave. Are you saying that if they consider that to be part of their democratic expression, that it is silly?
And I am saying to you, no, I do not think that those who make use of the term are referring to persons.
Well, I don't know what they're referring
No, let
to.
me finish the sentence. if you don't mind.
They say silly season.
No, yeah, but I do not think that it is applicable to the songs that people, the creative songs that come out. Is not applicable to the dress codes that they come out. It is just those, as I'm repeating now, it just speaks only to those comments, outrageous comments or actions that have no bearing or support or import where this democratic process is concerned as a whole for the benefit of all the people of St. Vincent and Grenadines. Is that subset?
Yeah, we need to look in the paper, for example, in the Searchlight on page 8. They do every week. They carry this thing word on the web. This week, they carried a statement made by the Honorable Daniel Cummins, where he said that mainland is NDP territory. And then there's a host of reaction to this. It makes me laugh. But I don't want to go on. I just want to leave it there, to conclude by leaving it there. Because the point is that the silly season term, they're trying to capture, because they don't do the same thing around Christmas. They don't do the same thing around Carnival. They don't use the same descriptors. And people make important decisions around those times as well. And elsewhere.
But Cecil, the silly season is about some of the extreme activities and extreme views that tend to come out at this time. For instance, Farmville. When there was this project proposed by the NDP, and it was labeled as Farmville Hospital.
So who said that was silly? That was done. That was put there by somebody who thought that out,
Right.
And they put it there for reaction.
And the reaction was overwhelmingly, how should I put it?
You're saying they're silly?
People see it as something funny, extreme.
Anyway, let me that. I just wanted to put that up because I this concept of silly season, this use of this term, as I said before, and I'll say it again, it sounds to me very elitist, and that people should not be allowed to express their feeling, no matter what it is. Could be comical. They express their feeling in language, in expressions, in costumes, in forms of dress, in songs. That's how people express themselves. You may not agree with the way they express themselves, or you may not like it, but that doesn't mean it is silly. It's part of any silly season. People say ridiculous things during Carnival. They make ridiculous tunes during Carnival. Why aren't they being classified as silly or whatever?
To distinguish it from the regular election season.
Regular election
season is carries with it certain peculiarities.
Just like Carnival.
And there's a tendency
just
for
like
people
Carnival.
to over-exaggerate certain issues.
But just like Carnival, to me, is a condemnation.
And I don't necessarily see silly season as a pejorative term necessarily.
Anyway, all right. So I express my view. I notice you guys didn't come in, but you don't have to. Those are my views. But I want to go back to last week's program, just to move on a bit, because I cannot look at the time. Last week's program, when there was part of the discussion on the right to vote. Remember that? And I received a voicemail from Senior Counsel Tony Astafan of Dominica. He listens to our program. He may well be listening now. In fact, I had a discussion with him yesterday and invited him to call if he wish. But we were discussing people's right to vote. And I remember we were saying that, well, we had an interesting discussion. I can't remember the details of it. But essentially, the voicemail that he sent me was basically saying that coming out of a case in, was it Dominica? I think so. And I'd ask him to phone so he could say exactly what it is. That once your name is on the judge had determined that once your name is on the voters list, it doesn't matter how long you still have the right to vote. So I went back to our law, the Representation of the People Act of 1982. And in clause 7, I think it is, which deals with your qualification as a voter, what would allow you to be able to vote. Clause 7, I think C, says, if you're out of the country for 5 years or more, you have to re-register. In the case of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I don't know if the same thing holds. In fact, he said the same thing doesn't hold for much of the Caribbean. But I saw that, I read that yesterday, and people who want to check it can go now and check it. That in the 1982 publication of the Representation of the People Act for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, clause 7, number subsection C, I think it is. But it's there, you would be able to read it clearly. That if you're out of the country for more than 5 years, you have to re-register. But so we had an interesting cross change because he was saying, how do you determine for how long somebody's out of the country? Because in those 5 years, if you live abroad, you may have come home to visit, or you may have come home for a
Several
funeral
times.
several times. So where is the cutoff point? And that is what's
They didn't use the word resident, or when you said out
in
of
the
country,
act. In the act.
act, did what?
It didn't use in the act. I could read it
Yeah,
and read
because,
it.
yeah,
Maybe I should do that in a little while. I'll do that.
yeah.
But that was the discussion coming out of last week's. So I don't know what you guys may wish to respond to that. Or I could ask Stefan to give us a call. I don't know if he's in a position to do that. But I just find the whole thing interesting. I need some clarification. Maybe somebody who understands it. In fact, I should have played his voice. Let me play his voice.
Cecil, I listened to part of the show with Peter on this thing about the right of people in the diaspora to vote, how you can't monitor it because you don't know how long they've been in the country. My experience, and there's actually a case on that in Dominica, that once you're registered on the voters list and have not been removed for whatever reason or disqualified for whatever reason, you have the right to come back to your country to vote. Now, what is new, what has become international best practices is that citizenship is now the premise of the right to vote, like in St. Kitts, as was pointed out, and domicile, and so on. And Australia, New Zealand, Canada, United Kingdom have all removed the barriers of residence for the right to vote. Once you're a citizen and registered in a constituency, you have the right to return to vote without any question of residence and so on. But I couldn't call because I had something to do and I'm just finished. And there's also
It's a continuation of what he said.
a judgment arising from the 2009 election in Dominica, where a High Court judge ruled that once your name is on the voters list, even if you reside overseas, you have the right to vote unless removed from the register before the election. And in fact, we have another judgment from another High Court judgment. He struck out 19 or 18 petitions when he said that there's no law prohibiting or criminalizing the provision of transportation to your own supporters. So there are a lot of issues that were raised today, but I couldn't call or message you before.
So that's what those are the messages he sent me that caused me to go to the actual document itself. So
There is a matter, Cecil, which not for this program, maybe another program, where there's a matter that went before the High Court in Barbados involving a university lecturer, at least the then university lecturer, Eddie Ventos, a national of St. Lucia, but living in Barbados. And he was challenging his right to vote in Barbados. Eddie Ventos actually is one of those justices who was involved in I think it was the vaccine mandate matter and so on. But he was a lecturer at Cable at the time. And it is something that we can discuss, especially in the context coming up soon. And it's another issue we can talk on another program soon, is now where the nationals of Barbados, St. Vincent and Grenadines, Dominica and Belize can now live, work, reside, and do a number of things. It's the same thing that applies to OECS nationals. And this is now the true expansion of the whole CSME, where the skill certificate would no longer be required if you are a national of Belize, Dominica and Barbados to actually live and work in St. Vincent and Grenadines. We can look at the implications, and we can even look at it as also in the context of elections that would take place in any of these jurisdictions.
yeah, but on this question, Pijan, you looked it up yet?
No.
Representation of the People Act. I just wanted to make sure about the wording in that, but we can come back to it because I'm trying to find my copy, but I haven't been able to do so. But yes, so those were I haven't reached out to yeah, somebody said interesting question. How do you find out of the country? But the precise language, the precise wording is in the Representation of the People Act, 1982. As I said, it's in clause 7, subsection, I think is C. All right, so before we get on to the main event, I want to pause a bit and ask persons who may wish to call us on any of the things we've said so far. You may wish to do so now. 457-9997 is the number to call us on WhatsApp or on the regular line, really. That number serves both lines, both platforms, really, WhatsApp or the regular. So 457-9997 is the number. If we didn't hear from you, I'd just go on to our main topic. Still waiting. Anybody who wishes to make any comment in between? If not, we would now invite our guests. I think I don't know who's. Oh, we have a call. We have a call. Let's take this call. Greetings, Kojo. Hello.
Good morning. This is Kojo Mason.
Greetings.
Going back to your silly season, I could see why it could constitute a silly season, because that statement Cummins made that NDP the St. Vincent, the mainland is NDP stronghold or something like that. That is either foolish or silly. It can be. It could be both. I don't know. But
yeah, but that's his view.
Yeah, but still a silly statement. Mr. Ryan, is a silly statement to make a statement like that. To me, that's silly or foolish. Because and right now, as a stand in St. Vincent, NDP doesn't have the stronghold on the mainland. To make a statement like that, it has to be a silly statement. So you might not want to call it silly season, but I could see a lot of the statement that they're making is silly. So, and they will not make those statements outside of the election time. So it's election season, so it's silly season. That's how I see it. I don't know how to see it, but that's
so he's not entitled to his opinion.
Yes, he's entitled to his opinion, but it's still a silly opinion.
But what you call it
silly?
Why you call it silly?
Because it's not a fact. The fact is that the mainland is not predominantly NDP. It's not a fact. It's just as the mainland is not predominantly UIP. It's not a fact. You can't make a statement like that and think it's a silly statement you make. It's a foolish statement to say that the mainland is NDP. No, you don't have no evidence to prove that the mainland is NDP only. So it's a silly statement, it's a foolish statement, however you want to put it. And because of the election season now, it's a silly statement, and it be considered silly statement season.
And to support you, Kojo, a preponderance of those statements tend to come around this time. Hence,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's around this time. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's around this time these things happen. They don't normally happen. You won't find that in a carnival, and it's a Californian singing it.
Exactly. Carnival sing songs or tunes in carnival, which they consider. No. Not necessarily bordering on politics or having to do with politics, but they sing songs that they on issues which they consider to be important issues.
Yeah, but if it's silly, it's still silly.
But who are you to determine that it being silly?
But how am I to determine what he's saying is the truth?
No, we didn't talk about truth. No, he didn't talk about truth. It's nothing to do with truth.
If we're not going with evidence of fact, then it's to me considered silly or foolish.
All right, my friend.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Thanks for calling. Okay. Okay. Anybody has anything to do with the question of the okay, we have another call. Let's take this one. Good morning. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Cecil. Morning.
Hey, Lansford. Morning.
And morning to everybody else that's there.
Hey, Lancer.
A couple of things quickly. I will not be long.
No, it's all right. It's okay.
Yes. Yes, I want to speak quickly with respect to the point that Joel made in terms of foreign investment and local ownership. I know there are some corporations that come into your country, and after many, many years, it happens in St. Vincent, it happens elsewhere in the Caribbean. They may still be involved with simply trading, transfer of significant transfer of knowledge, no significant transfer of technology. And I don't know that there is a transition to provide opportunities, the local ownership. I wonder, and they get involved in activities that compete significantly in activities that were traditionally done by very low-income persons, where they simply eke out a living. And you have these large corporations, relatively speaking, competing with them. So I'm just wondering what Joel is suggesting we do to them. If I can just make the few points I want to make and go off and listen on the radio.
Yeah.
With respect to the silly season, Cecil, silly simply means that you do or say things that reflect a lack of common sense. And for me, without a doubt, there's so many things that are said during the election season. I understand the point that you make, that important decisions are made during that time, the election, but there are so many silly things that suggest that the person who is saying them and the things that are said lack common sense. So they can be classified as silly. And therefore, given the number of times, the number of occasions you have that taking place during election, I don't know that it is unfair to have to say that within the election season, there's also a silly season. But the main point I want to speak to is the issue of the tourism conference. And Mr. Mapp spoke well about where we are with respect to a diversified economy and how it results in growth and sustainable growth. And Dr. Thompson mentioned the resort for Cumberland Bay. And
Lansford, just 1 minute.
Yes.
Both of them have the headphones on. Let me ask them to put the headphone back on so they could follow what you're saying. Mom, put on your headphone because Mr. Wicks is making a point based on what something said. All right, they have them on now.
Yeah, I'm just saying, Cecil, with respect to the investment in Cumberland Bay, I think that is going to provide the opportunity for not in terms of necessary in terms of a single entity, but in terms of the number of entities that can and will get involved in the accommodation sector in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Because there are some hills overlooking that part of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And maybe if and when persons invest in providing accommodation on those hills, they may just get more customers than the ones who invest in the bay. I think a resort in Cumberland Bay is a tremendous contribution to the future development and future not in the distant future, but in the future of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I welcome the strides and the effort that the government is putting into the tourism industry, because as I keep saying, and I hope persons will see it and buy into it for what it's worth, that tourism as a integrating factor in terms of the various sectors of the economy is tremendous. I still hear people talking about agriculture and agriculture being the backbone of the economy. That's not what the world has experienced. The countries in Asia, the Taiwan, the Republic of China, People's Republic of China, PRC, Malaysia, a number of these countries in Asia that were traditionally agriculture economies provided products for other countries to use in their manufacturing sector, made their way up the scale of development simply by using less factors of production in agriculture and investing it elsewhere. And that is where we are going in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That's where we are. That once we continue to make the investment in the hotel and restaurant sector, that it is going to drive agriculture. Agriculture has to do well for tourism to do well. The transportation sector has to do well for tourism to do well. Government services have to do well for tourism to do well. All of the other sectors will be pulled along. And like Mr. Mapsey, I hope we can get the cooperation of those who are involved to ensure, because as it stands now, and he's right, sometimes there's tremendous aid, millions of dollars that come into St. Vincent for development in areas of social sector, protecting the environment, providing sustainable environment, all of which will impact on our country generally tremendously. And the ego of some persons, some of them not even on the permanent establishment of the government, and the way they behave, sometimes it is reflected that international bodies provided us, and sometimes it's reflected that they spent significant amounts of monies in St. Vincent. And we don't see it because it is not spent on things that are most meaningful to us. And it is something that whoever forms the next government has to be careful about and take seriously. But I, like everybody else, I listened to the tourism conference, and I was very impressed. I am impressed with the presentation made by Minister. It's the first time I have heard someone making a major speech referring to tourism as an industry and demonstrated it is an industry by speaking about the other sectors that makes up the industry. And he did so consistently throughout his presentation, and I was very impressed with that. I'm proud that after coming into the 21st century without a major international branded hotel in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we are now getting to the point where we are having several of them, and I think it all will mean well for St. Vincent. You guys have not touched on the Canada issue, but I think at this, given the season that we're in, Cecil, it is
Sorry,
something that
you
we
said
need to
which
get.
issue? You said something.
The Canada one issue, taking back of our patrimony, our
Oh,
lands
that one. Yeah,
that
yeah.
we gave to foreigners to develop for us. And it appears that they want to use it for the private residents. And the government is doing the right thing to take it back from them and use it for our development. And I hope, as I've been saying, that these pursuits are not going to recruit Vincentians to fight against St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So, sir, thank you for giving me this opportunity again.
And thanks again for, as usual, calling and enriching our discussion. Thank you very much. All right. So, Lance well invited people to react because he went off. So he said, I don't know if any reaction.
Yeah, I think Lansford found the word that I was trying to find while I was speaking. Integrating. How the tourism industry just pulls everything around it together and enables growth in those industries. And that really came out of the discussion. And I was really fascinated to see the Minister of Tourism in his address with the slideshow and the statistics and the data and how the growth is going. Those things really fascinates me as an economist, and I really liked how he presented those things. I wanted to add that and say to persons in the public that these forums, these discussions are not just for people like us, that they are online and we should go back to them and listen to them, and they should help guide our investment decisions. For me, as a general person, I listen to the budget addresses every year, and I knew that a construction boom was coming. So what did I do? I bought a truck. I bought a 4-ton truck.
Okay.
And it's I don't know if Kelvin Pumpy is listening.
well, more immediately, you can do a free ad. That's
no,
it.
I'm not doing a free ad. I was saying that you position yourself based on these conversations. Persons should listen to these conversations to position themselves, because there are a lot of opportunities in the construction sector.
Yeah.
Why should I just be shut and tight?
So you saw it coming?
I saw it coming, and
Okay.
and it was stated repeatedly in the budget addresses.
Yeah.
There is going to be a massive construction boom, and there is going to be a tourism boom. And if there's a tourism boom, then you should find yourself
Position
at a bank,
yourself. Yeah.
credit union, and just be bold, be brave, because without risk, there's no reward. But if you don't listen to these things, then you can come back and blame government and say that, government has us like this. We ourselves have to take the opportunities, and to do so, we have to be informed. In fact, when I studied economics back in the day, and we studied the factors of production, it was land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. Today, we have introduced as an important factor of production, information.
Technology
And information.
Yeah.
So I find myself every 8 o'clock of the Tuesday and Thursday night watching API. I have to.
For your business.
Not just for my
Just kidding,
business,
just
for
kidding.
information, because
Yeah.
without information, you can't make informed decisions. And there is I am really optimistic about the development trajectory that Siemens is on now. I think we are on a path to the data is showing that you saw the Human Development Index, how we have grown significantly in the ranking. You see the unemployment data coming down. I spoke to the GDP growth being the second fastest in the economy. And if we don't position... In the Caribbean, sorry. And if we don't position ourselves to capitalize on these opportunities, we have only ourselves to blame.
I just want to respond to Mr. Mapp and indicate that Kelvin Poppy might be listening, but I'm not so sure that he's so concerned about a photon truck and so on and his contribution. I think, based on what he said recently, he's more concerned with the real property, the land and the property and so on, that persons must pay the land tax and the property tax. But even as I say it, I just wonder as well whether or not there should be incentives and so on. So you have land and so forth, and you think that you can do, that there may be further incentives that can be granted to Vincentians of all walks of life to use their property towards their own personal, enrichment and the development of the country as well. So don't let the land tax and so on get in the way and so on. But still, go and talk to Mr. Pompey.
No, I know there's a hotel act that deals with concessions. For the truckers like myself, I know that the government announced that concessions on trucks. So over the last 3-4 years, we've seen a significant, and we see it ourselves, the amount of trucks we have on the roads, the tractors, and they have really transformed how we do construction. They have made things much easier. So
yeah, okay. I hear you. Just a point before the program started, you and I, we had a brief discussion where I want to see where we don't speak about contractors or people into construction, but we have to move from construction to fabrication.
Yes.
So that we can actually fabricate, as it is being done now around the world and in the Caribbean, fabricate in warehouses, factories, or wherever, and then we bring them out and then we take 2 weeks, 2 months, or whatever the case might be, to put up whatever structures that we may wish.
Yes. I wanted to address the Cumberland. I listened to the announcements and the new hotel constructions, the groundbreaking ceremonies, and I welcome them. I love them as an economist. But the dearest one to my heart, and I don't want to seem biased, was the Cumberland. You notice before we started, I spoke to Cumberland because even though I am an East St. George man, North Leeward has a special place in my heart. And
why is that?
That's since I joined the Medicinal Cannabis Authority, where a significant portion of our stakeholders, the traditional cultivators, a significant portion of the traditional cultivators reside in North Leeward. These are persons who have been stigmatized, who persons have looked down on, and the system has really, and so our role at the Medicinal Cannabis Authority, and it's enshrined in the law, is to provide alternative livelihood developments for these persons, the traditional cultivators. And persons think that traditional cultivators are just ganja farmers. No, they are masons, they are carpenters, and they are farmers on a whole. So we have been intent, and Dr. Thompson will speak to that more than when he gets the chance. We have been intent and determined that when the government is distributing resources, that traditional cultivators benefit too. So we have worked with the cabinet, and we have distributed over 100 acres of land in Lasham Tapil to traditional cultivators. That's in North Leeward. We are propagating seedlings, vegetable seedlings, and distributing to traditional cultivators. And I know there was a harvest. The Minister of Agriculture had a consultation down there, General Agriculture. And when he saw the produce from the traditional cultivators of Lasham, Dr. Thompson says you want to come in.
No, you go ahead. You're going well.
He called a press briefing the next morning to showcase those produce, excellent produce coming out of tradition.
What produce are we talking about?
Vegetables, watermelon, squash.
Butternut squash, a whole set of things.
In what quantities?
Well, let me tell you, they were actually quite substantial quantities because of the type of soil. The volcanic soil.
Sorry to cut you, but can you tell our listeners? Can you tell our listeners where Lasham is located? Yes,
is an area just beyond the Wallaby River. Everybody knows Richmond and the Richmond River, and then just beyond there's the Wallaby River. The Wallaby River comes down from the Trinity falls right to the ocean. And the shoreline is called Lasham, and there's a plateau of flatland, right, called Top Hill. And we basically surveyed and distributed over 100 acres to traditional cultivators and some of the farmers who were formerly in the area of the quarry. And they basically have been farming those particular lands. They have been issued essentially licenses and so forth, cannabis, but we have been promoting their production of food. And in conjunction with the Zero Hunger, we were able to obtain seeds. We at the MCA, at our headquarters, where we greenhouse, we processed the seedlings, grew them to a certain level, and carried trays of seedlings and distributed them to the farmer as a start. They got some got seeds, but we gave them seedlings 4-6 inches high so they could put into the ground. And essentially, a number of them have started this process of planting. Now, the whole thing is that when the minister saw the sort of stuff they would produce, the size of the butternut squash, the size of the watermelons, and the quality, they basically started the process of looking to purchase them. And he had a demonstration in his conference room. I happened to be there, but I stayed out of the camera.
Oh, when you said the
Ministry of Agriculture.
Purchase.
And basically, I could tell you, I tasted some of the watermelon, Joel, and I tasted some of the other products, and it is to behold. I mean, really high quality stuff. So the point that's being made is that in addition to what they do, the table is identifying that the MCA has a special relationship with traditional cultivators throughout the nation. In the case of in the North Leeward area, we have distributed lands to them, and we're not just distributing lands, we are also helping them with seedlings. And we're glad that they're now finding way in terms of the marketing of their produce so that they're able to get sales and so forth like that, of those non-cannabis products we're talking about.
Some of these non-cannabis products would be at cannabis.
Let me tell you something. I'm not going to say sure. I am telling you that we are going to feature food as part of our food security. And it's not known that the traditional cultivators, not just now, but for a long time, has been a significant part of St. Vincent food security. And they are good farmers who can produce not only cannabis, but can produce other products. And we're encouraging that, so that in terms of their basket of goods, they basically would diversify in some way and in somewhat make money from a number of different type of means. So this
I want to follow up the question that Joel is asking. Some of those cultivators, traditional, would they be who have been recipients of the land at Lasham?
Yeah.
Would they be bringing some of those fruits?
Absolutely.
Right. So that's all we wanted
yes.
to know. That.
Yes. Yeah, it's going to be a major.
So people who attend the function or any aspect, they can expect to have to buy fruits there.
Well, maybe we should get into cannabis and
no, not yet. We get into that.
So
but just answer the question. People will be able to get fruits there.
Yes.
And products.
Cecil, I was making the correlation between what we're doing in Notlewood. I mean, we're working with traditional.
But you were making the point why you love Cumberland. Yeah, I want you to finish that part.
Right. So why I'm seeing Cumberland as very important, a hotel, because it provides that demand for the produce coming out of Notlewood.
And in particular, and also Lasham.
And Lasham.
Okay.
In particular. That's why I said I welcome all of the development and I love all of them, but there is a special place in my heart for Notlewood because I too face the stigma, because you're working at the Medicinal Cannabis Authority. People will laugh at you. Why did you leave Ministry of Finance to go to a Medicinal Cannabis Authority? I mean, one may say it's economics and the impact that it could have on economy in jobs and contributing towards economic growth. But what really touched me while walking there and what helped me to really realize that I made the right decision, those testimonies when persons come to the Medicinal Cannabis Authority for a patient ID and they tell you that I have cancer, I have this ailment, and the only thing that is helping me with this ailment is medicinal cannabis. If we hadn't established and developed a medicinal cannabis industry in St. Vincent, it will be just like everything else, where we are simply importing. That's the stark reality. And if you are building an economy and all you're doing is importing, then all you're doing is having leakages. You're building a tourism industry and you have to import every single thing. Then you will have significant leakages and the tourism industry won't really redound to the common man.
Mm-hmm.
So we are pleased that we have built an industry. We have faced, when we started, COVID, which caused a lot of the investors who had already gotten licenses to not be able to come in and set up. You know, we faced that. We faced volcano. We faced Hurricane Elsa. And last year, while we were rolling out consumption lounge and doing well, we faced Beryl, which literally licked down several of the consumption lounges in the Grenadine Islands. So we have had a very difficult time in building out this industry. But we are pleased of what we have achieved thus far because we have in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, persons think of it as only smoker blows. Medicinal cannabis is only about smoking weed, you know. We have the most comprehensive range of products in the entire Caribbean. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
I want to switch to the thing.
Okay.
But before I do, I want to conclude by making the direct link between the facility that is going to be at Cumberland, the tourism facility, making the link between that facility and the traditional farmers. And as lands, to use lands for storm, to what extent would it be integrated? You see the point I'm making?
You know, I think that these are still very early days.
I know, but there's a basis for integration.
Yes, and absolutely.
Which is what I want.
Integration is the word I also want to talk about as I go into the discussion about cannabis. But I want to say that this is not the first opportunity we've been looking at hotel development in North Leeward. Let me say this. We were looking at a hotel development at Lasham itself.
Yeah, but no, I understand. With all due respect, I don't want to get sidetracked. I don't want to get into that. Hold on, please. I don't want to get into all
It's
of
important
that.
why you're saying that. It's important.
Hold on. I just want to make the link and for you to tie up, Mark, between the point you're making about Cumberland and Lasham or the traditional farmers. I want you to tie that up, conclude on that, and then we can go on to the other
Yes,
thing.
Cecil. So we are talking about demand. A new demand being introduced, and demand not just for food. We spoke a lot about food from the traditional cultivators, but they plant cannabis. And what we have seen from the tourism industry growing is that spillover effect from the tourists, the visitors coming here for medicinal cannabis.
Okay.
And we want the farmers who are planting, it has been hard to integrate them fully into the medicinal cannabis industry because every time we reach a stage, we get a shock.
And you see the Cumberland facility as providing that opportunity?
Yes, because even with persons coming in for sandals, we get in requests for medicinal cannabis from them.
Okay.
Persons coming in at various locations. If you speak to persons, St. Vincent has, and one of the things that we have going for us, we have had a history of cannabis cultivation, though illegal, for over 50 years.
Right. So, Dr. Thompson, sorry, I wanted to conclude on that link.
Yes, I was just adding to it that why tourism from a hotel development was important. We had a particular investor who was looking at constructing a tourism hotel facility at Lasham itself, just a few years ago. And one of the questions asked was, what about that mountain up there? Is it likely to erupt anytime soon? And I remember saying, nah, no way. The point I was making was that one of the hindrances that we've had for major investment in the most northwest of the country has been La Soufrière eruption. And Cumberland, what Cumberland does, it's the most sheltered bay of mainland St. Vincent. And it already attracts a fair amount of yachts and yachties. It has a culture there and so forth, the hospitality, the trade and so forth, so that it's really ideal for a hotel and marina type project that will now carry this forward. And because I have always lamented the fact that a lot of people from North have had to leave, go overseas or go down to the Grenadines to find work for months on end. And now you're seeing them just half an hour away going to Sandals, going to other hotels. And soon, right there in the North Leeward area, Cumberland, nearby, you would see the ability and the access to work and jobs being very nearby. So I just want to add that. But on the whole subject of integration, I think we've started really discussing this.
But I'm mindful of the time, eh?
I know.
You got
About. With cannabis, you know, many people, we see cannabis as not just cannabis alone. We see it as really part of agriculture. We see that the value added, and Terrell is talking about the wide range of things, the manufacturing and the processing of the cannabis into oils and into well-designed products that are safe and also affordable. We've seen the potential in terms of export, and we've seen the tourism export in terms of bringing the visitor here, cruise ship visitor, or other yachties, or other people from hotels, bringing them here, and the benefits in relation to that. And of course, the whole concept of social well-being. On that basis, cannabis, as we developed it last year, 2024, we considered it as a huge success. And the cabinet of this country, government, based on the responses from people in general, was pleased. They were happy. And they asked us, we want you to do this again. And we have been intent on making this bigger, better. Matter of fact, we've adopted a theme in terms of cannabis. This year, Cannabis 2025 is more of everything. It's more food. It's more ITIL. It's more medicinal cannabis. It's more manufactured products. It's more of everything, more culture, bigger shows. And we are looking to achieve that. Last year, we had cannabis at the Adamsville playing field. We used the downstairs of the double-decker stand for the expo. We used the outside area behind for our show. And we used the Mike Finley stand for our lecture. This year, we are moving a little bit more central. I mean, Adamsville was a picturesque area. We loved it. But basically, bringing it to Victoria Park for Cannabis 2025 is a critical move to bring people out and participate in all the various aspects. Cannabis is unique. And you talk about integration, we are actually integrating 5 elements and we're adding a 6th. The 5 elements, 1, we're having a conference, lecture series, knowledge, sharing of knowledge, demonstrations and so forth. And we're bringing in experts, both local and foreign, regional, to really see what's taking place in St. Vincent Grenadines and learn about what's happening around the world. And that's very critical. The next thing is an expo. And this expo is not just an expo related to cannabis itself and the cannabis products, but we are integrating agriculture. It's a mini breadfruit festival is going to be there. Botanical gardens, they're coming down. We have Cardi, and they're inputting dasheen and sweet potato. They're going to be there. And so we get it.
And chocolate.
And we haven't the manufacture, some other type of product that you may not be aware of. We allow here infused products. Is the integration of St. Vincent chocolate with that of cannabis. And those products are also going to be showcased and so forth. We're bringing in the folks from health. And so you can get your blood pressure checked and your and nutrition and other things like that. They're going to be there. And that's part of the expo. But in addition, we have the ITIL Fest. The folks from the ITIL Fest, they can be there in block, and we've been working very, very closely with them. And of course, we also going to have another component we introduced last year, a traditional cultivators village, where that is going to be quite unique. And those things are all going to be taking place inside Victoria Park itself. We're transforming Victoria Park in the form of a festival. On top of that, that's October 2nd and October 3rd, And of course, we have an opening ceremony, and then we go into the lecture series and so forth. And so it's all really well integrated. On
Give
the
us
morning
some times on the October.
Yes. We starting at October the 2nd, Thursday, October the 2nd. We're starting at 9 o'clock. But the expo. Huh?
Everybody is invited to the opening
ceremony. The expo and so forth kind of starts off. The opening ceremony starts at 9. Prime Minister there, everything like that. The usual thing, Minister of Agriculture.
Except people listening may not know the usual, so you got to give.
Yes, I know. I'm kind of flipping through that because of the time factors.
No. We have. If you have the information, let's. Let's give it the information.
Yeah. So we have in the opening ceremony. We're gonna have the various ministers involved, and this integration is that we have our Minister of Agriculture who can be there. We're also integrating because this is. We've looked at this as a tourism thing. The Minister of Tourism is going to be there speaking, and of course, it is something related to finance. Minister of Camilo Gonzalez will be speaking as well, and of course, Prime Minister will be speaking. Then, after we formally opening the expo, and then going on to lecture series starting in the afternoon. Once the day ends around 4 o'clock or so, people are going to be allowed to really participate in the expo, those who are attending the conference and so on. But we are inviting the general public. Come up from the hospital, come up from Little Tokyo, come up from Backstreet. And
did you say come up from the hospital?
Come up from the hospital clinic and so forth. If you're visiting persons at the hospital and you're visited, you see, we're right next to the hospital. So the point I'm making, you're visiting a relative or somebody after, pass up to see the expo and so forth.
What about parking facilities?
Yes, but let me just finish everything and then we come through that. Right?
Well,
we are utilizing a fair amount of the existing parking facilities that are around, and we will be announcing that where parking and so forth will be available, and so accordingly. On the 3rd, which is the Friday, a similar thing for the whole day. The expo will be taking place, and we want to invite the general public to come to that expo. Now on the Saturday morning, the various delegates who've come in, and Mapo will tell you about who's coming in, right, from the different islands and so forth, and that's an important feature. We're having tours to various tourism sites, some to traditional cultivator farms, others to other manufacturing plants, so they could see and get an idea of what St. Vincent is being, what's producing. And then on the Saturday night, we're having a major cultural show. We're having Beanie Man and Spraggle Benz, and this is expected to be something extraordinary. Already, I got to tell you, all our early bird tickets are sold out. I mean, the $80 tickets are the prices now. They're going in short supply. There's all sorts of outlets and so where you can buy tickets from. and there's a VIP section and so forth. And then on the Sunday, we're having a cool down where there's a cruise down to Beckway. And the general public is invited to that too, if they're allowed to, but we expect more that it will be some of the visitors who've come in and so forth. Last year, we had over 200 visitors here coming in, right, to this show. This year, we're expecting that to be doubled. The hotels are already full. You know, you can't get a room at Kennedy's house. You can't, I mean, the Holiday Inn has been tremendous. I mean, they have 91 rooms there, and I don't know if they're almost full too, and so forth, but they've been really going very well. And we really are looking at cannabis. Not only is having an impact on showcasing what St. Vincent the Grenadines is producing, you know, that it is showing that we are now the leader in the Caribbean with respect to medicinal cannabis. And, you know, the main feature of the conference, I got to tell you, is that we're focusing on how do we maintain and further enhance quality of the product, reducing, and the concept of interregional trade. I think this is very important. Let me put it off the map.
But before you go on the map, and maybe a map could say, I asked the question of parking. It's going to be a packed set of activities.
Yes, it is.
And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be there with coming by vehicles and so on. And during the day when around that area is already busy.
Yeah.
So I wanted to find out if you're making special arrangements with the Anglican Church.
Listen, we are doing
that.
We are doing that, and we're finalizing some things. You know, certain announcements.
But in as much as we're here now,
that's a great suggestion from you, and we can be doing that.
Yeah, so you're doing it.
We do.
Fine. So people who are coming should know that there is this facility there for parking.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's a paid facility, but I don't know if you all are going to be negotiating.
Yes, we are. We are.
Right. So
very important. Very important.
People need to know that.
Yes.
And they come. Yeah. So you're going to map. You're going to go on to some other things.
No, I wanted Joel to be here when I touch this point. But
he should be here. He will be back shortly.
Yeah.
In fact, he's coming back now. He doesn't know his name. But in the meantime,
I would say that the conferences Dr. Thompson spoke to them, really trying to touch on three main areas. We want to improve quality in cultivation. So we will be having out of Jamaica Dr. Marshall Emmanuel, who is a professor at the University of the West Indies in Jamaica, to present on how do we achieve high quality in cultivation. Then we want to touch on the issue of...
Joel is back, as you can see.
We want to touch on the issue of patient access. How do we administrate cannabis to patients effectively? So we will have presentations from Dr. Roger Duncan, our very own Roger Duncan, and because he's one of the leading persons in prescribing cannabis to patients.
Okay.
So he will give a real-world practical perspective.
And Dr. Jamito
James. And then we want to speak to the whole issue of cooperation and interregional trade, which is something that is hindering the industry right now. So we'll have persons speaking about that too. We'll have all the regulators from the region coming in and to speak about their own experience in building a cannabis industry in their country. Because practically every single Caribbean island, English speaking, is looking to build a cannabis industry.
Based on the model here in St. Vincent.
Listen, by the end of this year, almost all of the English speaking islands, especially those in the OESF, would have legalized medicinal cannabis.
And they're basing the approach on the model here in St. Vincent that you're pursuing?
Well, we have learned from each other.
Okay, all right.
So to speak, because we learned, Jamaica started for us in 2015. We learned a lot from Jamaica, and we tweak it to our own environment. Because if you look at cannabis and as an agricultural plant, there are countries that have an advantage in agriculture, and there are countries that have an advantage that are good at tourism. And so the way in which you position your medicinal cannabis industry should not be the same, so to speak.
Yeah, okay.
If we all follow the same model and we all seek to cultivate and we all seek to do the same thing, it may very well be, it could be a race to the bottom, or it could be those that have the comparative advantage or competitive advantage in cultivating will shine, will outshine.
So you're
those-
in St. Vincent, you're creating your own niche, basically. You're creating your own niche in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Well, what I'm saying is that St. Vincent has an advantage over
Okay.
50 years of cannabis cultivation. Another country may be good at dispensing and retailing cannabis because they have a sizable tourism market, but they may not have that competitive advantage in agriculture on a whole. That's
Okay.
not their area of expertise.
Okay.
And those are the kind of conversations that we want to have in the room amongst the regulators panel, because we talk a good talk at CARICOM, a good talk, and you see that things take so long to get done because we talk a good talk, and then when we go back to our individual countries, it becomes competitive. And so we want to encourage us at those regional, the regulators panel, to not pursue this mindset that St. Vincent cannabis industry is better than mine. Everybody trying to create a better cannabis industry, but instead we should work together to create a Caribbean cannabis market, because one bad news in Barbados could impact St. Vincent, because persons outside see us as a Caribbean, it could have significant reputational damage. So we want to build this industry together.
All right. So the question you wanted to ask in Joel's presence.
Joel.
Comment you.
Joel, I because I remember that Cecil, Joel, and Pigeon, we are very, very grateful to you guys, because when we started this thing last year, you were the first to give us an exposure to come
and the radio station, eh?
and WEFM,
Yeah.
sorry, and WEFM issues at hand, because we are highly stigmatized. I tell you, I go to meetings and people laugh after me because I work at cannabis. I feel it, you know, but I remain steadfast and focused, and I don't have any regret at all going to the medicinal cannabis industry to work, because I have learned so much. I have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, and it has all made me stronger.
All right.
So what I wanted to speak to, because I remember the program that
You
we
have a
were
lot
on.
of time remaining, eh?
Yes,
On the program. So
just like yesterday.
I want to give the next few minutes for people to call in.
Okay. No, I was saying I remember our first program just like yesterday, and Joel asked, "What is the touristic value?" That stood with me of cannabis.
Okay.
And I am pleased to report, I mean, Dr. Thompson said it, we had close to 200 persons coming in last year for cannabis. So, which filled hotels and Airbnbs around the Annisville area, from Spring Gardens in Argyle in spring to Kingston. So it created a significant spillover on the tourism industry. This year, we're looking to attract over 400 persons to cannabis. And I'm pleased to report that based on our conversations with the hoteliers thus far and persons registering on our platform for the conferences and so forth, that Cannabis SVG Festival 2025 will welcome delegations and visitors from Anguilla, Antigua, Bahamas, Barbados, Bermuda, Grenada, Guadeloupe, Dominica, Jamaica, St. Lucia, St. Kitts, Canada, USA, and Europe. We will be welcome.
And that gives you a number, kind of rough number of about 400, you said?
No, these delegations. These are delegations. We will be even welcoming delegations. We did it last year, that include ministers of government from various countries are coming in prominent secretaries,
Attorney General.
Attorney General, Assistant Commissioner of Police, and the delegations are mixed, not just public servants. You have delegations coming out of Jamaica from the Rastafari community. 7 of them coming out of Jamaica from the Rastafarian community. And you have medical practitioners coming. You have public servants coming. You have cannabis enthusiasts coming. You have persons who are reggae music lovers coming. It will be that festival that brings together so many different stakeholders into one place to showcase what St. Vincent and the Grenadines has achieved in cannabis.
So they are not considered in your categorization as the tourists?
Yes, they are tourists.
Oh,
But anybody who comes in are tourists.
Right. So that would what number would that make up?
You know, we still have about 10 days to go. Ticket sales.
So you don't have a figure now.
No, but we
Right,
look at
it's okay.
our goal
Yeah.
because we have key performance indicators. When you go to present to cabinet, somebody like a director general of finance would tell me you want.
So
funding
do
for
you
this.
have a rough number? That's all I'm asking. A rough
No, we don't have
number.
a rough
Right,
number,
fine,
but persons
that's fine.
are coming in and we're
From
looking
all these places.
from all these places.
Yeah, okay.
And we're looking at it being over 400 persons.
Right, so that's what I'm asking. So
Yes,
you have
that's-
a rough number of about 400
Yes.
at least.
Yes,
Right, so that's all.
yes,
At least 400.
yes.
All right, so we don't have a lot of time remaining, so I now have to open up. I know those guys may have questions for you. In the meantime, I want to encourage those who are listening, if you want to call, 457-9997 is the number to call. WhatsApp or straight. Yeah, Peter, I see you.
I was wondering if the legal issues have been resolved. The distinction between medicinal cannabis and cannabis for recreational use. Has that been settled?
Can you make a note and let me
Yes,
take
go
this
ahead,
call
yeah.
and then we can answer. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, Cecil Ryan.
Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, P. John.
Good afternoon, Aisha.
Good afternoon. I'm going to say, I'm going to your
Pigeon knows your
your
voice, man. Pigeon is able to identify your voice. Okay, well, hi, Aisha. Greetings.
Listen to me. I'm calling to speak to Dr. Thompson.
Well, he's listening.
And I'm calling now.
And also, Joel is here, just in case you forget.
Of course. Bamba, good morning.
Good morning. I heard your voice even without my headphones on.
Listen, I feel like a big woman calling you Bamba now, eh?
It's all right, man. It's all right. You go right ahead.
Dr. Thompson, good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you, Adisha?
I'm good. How you from for calling me this morning? I'm
No,
calling
not
to
at all.
pick you
Not
up.
at all. Thank you very much. I mean, when Cecil said time is of the essence, I'm leaving it up to you. You know what I mean? You go right ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna put it on.
Yes.
I was a participant last year in cannabis, and I think it was a wonderful experience. I am encouraging local vendors who have items that they want to put on the market, whether they are cannabis related or anything to promote St. Vincent, to come out and be a part. I think the team worked exceptionally well. They worked hard and they got the job done. There may have been hiccups like in everything else, but that makes it better for the next year. You have your areas to work on and build on and make it bigger and better. Now, my first critical point is, as it relates to cannabis, the Rastafari movement and traditional farmers in St. Vincent and the Grenadines have been agitating for years for the holistic use of marijuana, not just medical. And I think we must make the step in agitating for recreational use for consenting adults, for adults who can be legally responsible for themselves. I also would like to encourage the Rastafari movement and traditional farmers to go back to the drawing board and make sure that they are benefiting from the industry in every way possible. Right? I know forces would have stayed away for whichever reason from making sure that they see and get what is there to be gotten from this industry I think we need to reanalyze and make sure that the persons who have been sacrificing for many years are the persons who can gain. I know there are many persons who jump in on the bandwagon now because it's a thriving industry. They never got arrested. They never got persecuted. They never got denied loans for their homes, etc., because they didn't have a viable business. Now it's the time for the traditional farmers and the Rastafari to make sure that they get their feet in the door and they get benefits from this industry. You're the only ones to be blamed. You can't blame the government for not being a part of it. You have to make sure that you get involved and see how you can benefit. Right? With that being said, big up. I'll be there for cannabis. And I'm encouraging persons to come out and support the activity in all of its days. Let's go on the Catman tours, their spaces. Let's go to the Beanie Man show if there's more tickets available. And if there's not more tickets, let them print more tickets. Let's come out and support the activities, the 2 days of all the beautiful products and items that will be there on sale, and support as much vendors as you can. I think the industry, the financial industries can give some cannabis loans. Supporters can go out and get all sorts of stuff that will be there on display. You know, we have carnival loans and Christmas loans. Put out the cannabis loan so that person can get some money to come out and shop and enjoy.
Economic activity?
Yes, it's an economic activity.
Exactly.
Yes. So I'm just giving the kudos to Mr. Mapp. You know, I've been always chatting with him behind the scenes and, you know, encouraging him. And me and Gerald meet up from time to time. And most of the members of the team, I will big them up for their hard work and hope that they continue to do so. And make some more spaces at the table for the traditional farmers. I know that I'm in the next year I'll be going for my marijuana license as well because I want to go to medical marijuana because I want to reap the benefits of this industry.
It's about time.
Yeah, so, you know, and all the best, my dear brothers. Brothers, sorry.
Yes,
I want to know how you classify us.
I just want to just say one thing to Aidisha, and I know she's, but well, okay. Let me let her go, and then we'll say it afterwards. But I'm
so
sure
Aidisha,
okay.
Thank you very much for calling.
Yes, all the best.
Yeah, all right.
Thanks a lot.
Yes, we've made a special provision that entry to the expo is free. The traditional cultivator coming to the lecture series, the convention and so forth, they also are able to get in free. The cost is usually $55, $20 US, $55. We made it really affordable for in general, but they could get in free. And if anyone is a licensed cultivator or a member of the Nyabingi Rastafari faith, you are going to be allowed free entry into the Beanie Man Spragga Ben show. We're doing a special provision in which we will be contacting them and so forth, so that licensed cultivators, in other words, if you are the wife of a licensed cultivator, or you're the son of a cultivator, well, you are gonna have to pay for your ticket. You know what I mean? But the licensed cultivator, you know, when Aidisha said that she is looking for her license because she is a member of the Bingi or Rastafari faith, we will know, and our communication with them, that they will be able to have a free entry pass to that show. You know, and I want that information.
So they get the pass before?
We're doing it in a special way. You know, we'll have a special gate by which they'll be able to come in. We'll have names and so forth.
Okay, you have names.
Yeah, we have a list.
Okay, good.
So the number to call is 457-9997. WhatsApp regular, and you can get on to the program to question or comment on the program, on the program so far, what has been said. We're talking about the state of the marijuana industry, and in particular, we're talking about Cannabis Festival, which is coming up in the 2nd to the 7th of October.
It's the second to the 5th.
Sorry, 2nd to the 5th of October, and in the studio we have Dr. Thompson and Mr. Mapp talking about those matters. And if you wish to make a comment, the number is 457-9997, or you can call to ask a question in particular to the show or whatever. Yes.
Let me just add one thing.
I think Pigeon wanted.
I was wanting us to go back to the
Pigeon
question
had a
the legal.
question I had posed about the distinction between the legal,
Yes.
medicinal, and the recreational use of.
Let me say, medicinal cannabis is quite defined and distinct. In our laws, they amended the Drug Prevention and Misuse Act that you are able to use cannabis in your place of worship. You're also allowed to have it in your place of residency. However, in terms of public use, they say you should not have it anywhere near a playground, a school, or anything of that nature. Those places are prohibited in order to protect those persons who don't necessarily want to use it. You are allowed to have up to 56 grams, which is the same as 2 ounces. I hear people saying, when we're going to legalize 2 ounces. 2 ounces, Drake's, this is my teacher, Joel, always told me that 1 ounce is 28 grams or 2 ounces is 56 grams. We've already done that. We basically have the process where 56 grams is permitted and so forth here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In other countries, it's just 30 grams. In other words, the same as 1 ounce. St. Vincent and Jamaica probably have the highest amount and so forth. But it's important to know that there's a difference between what if you had 57, 58, 80 grams on you? Well, we have a policy. It's not in legislation. It's called tolerance. And I want to thank the Royal St. Vincent Police Force, the drug units, and all the folks there. They really are very supportive. And they are not going to pull you up for having 57 grams, 58, 80 grams, and that sort of things and so forth. So no longer people being affected by having a spliff. So a spliff is like maybe about 2 grams, 3 grams, and so forth. So, a lot of people would also have their medicinal cannabis, whether in raw form or in manufactured form. I must tell you, in some countries of the Caribbean, you're not allowed, they've legalized medicinal cannabis, but you're not allowed to smoke the product. That's very unusual. For St. Vincent and the Grenadines, you are allowed to use smokable products, but you're also allowed to use manufactured products. And very often, the quantity you may have comes up to well above 50 grams. And the police understand that, and they're able to tolerate that process.
Pigeon, have you had the answer to your question?
Yeah.
All right. So the number to call is 457-9997 to call us and ask question or make comments to Mr. Mapp or Dr. Thompson.
I want to add one more thing. There is something that may well happen very soon. The United States may well, over the next few weeks, next few months, do a rescheduling of cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. This would make cannabis like it's an ordinary medication. You know what I mean? If I could put it that way. And it's going to have significant effect, it's believed, on the whole banking, the ability of product to be carried on a plane, on a yacht, on a boat, and shipped away. So far, St. Vincent is the only island in the Caribbean that has legal banking for cannabis. You believe that? The only island, so money is able to flow in and out in relation to whatever trade or for investment and so forth. This is wonderful. And we want to thank the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines in this regard, because it's been well professionally organized and so forth. And there's certain reasons why it has happened that way.
Are other financial institutions in St. Vincent, are they qualified to do as the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is doing?
Well, Mapp, you will speak it, I think I'll be speaking.
No, well, the credit unions do bank medicinal transactions, but to get to what Bank of St. Vincent has achieved. It's a huge achievement, and the other persons from the region are asking, how did the Bank of St. Vincent achieve this? It started in 2017 when the government announced that it's looking to build a medicinal cannabis industry. The bank immediately went and had conversations with Bank of America and Toronto Dominion Bank, and a framework was created to ensure that there isn't any commingling of funds, so that medicinal cannabis funds doesn't commingle with the other funds of the bank, the normal banking transaction. And the bank created a special office, a special unit that deals and monitors with medicinal cannabis transaction to ensure they are compliant with international banking regulations and with the Medicinal Cannabis Industry Act. So all that had to be in play. And so it got the green light from Toronto Dominion Bank back then to process medicinal cannabis transactions.
So if other financial institutions in St. Vincent want to benefit from that, how do they do it? Do they speak with the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, or what?
The process is, that was a very, very long process.
No, I understand that. I understand all of that. But hold on.
It would require them speaking to get to Bank of St. Vincent to get a sense of how it was achieved, but they will have to speak to their correspondent banks in the United States of America and in Canada to achieve that. It requires a lot of conversations.
But some of these institutions, let's not hide.
No. I think the answer is very simple. The answer is very simple.
Let's hear it.
Throughout the Caribbean, it's probably because St. Vincent and the Grenadines owns or is a major shareholder of the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines that they're allowed to do that. Because other banks in the region have other investors that may be American-based and a very strong link to the U.S. Their head office maybe somewhere in the U.S. or somewhere there, or a different bank in a different country that is worried about their corresponding relationship. They have declined and are not able to do it. St. Vincent is able to do it because of the way in which the ownership of Bank of St. Vincent is designed.
Well, okay, fine. But you see, there are credit unions in St. Vincent who do business with the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. There are other banks and there are other institutions, financial institutions, like Building and Loan, for example, who also do promote savings accounts and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Now, my question is, in the same way that the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is able, under the law, to benefit from transactions with, these transactions, how could it be possible for other financial institutions, i.e. credit unions?
The credit unions do bank medicinal cannabis transactions.
Also, they work with the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines?
They work with the companies. They do bank. Like an employee of a cannabis company could open a credit union account, and when they get the salary, they could process the salary through a credit union. But the aspect of another bank wanting to facilitate medicinal cannabis transaction, that's a conversation for their management, their leadership in terms of risk appetite, because it boils down to risk. The Bank of St. Vincent, beyond government and government shares, it has a leadership that assessed the risk and saw the risk of something that they could put mitigating factors around to ensure that it doesn't threaten the correspondent banking, because you don't want the medicinal cannabis industry, where I work there, to have so many risks that it threatens banking on a whole. And so the bank went about and had those conversations.
Yes, those things are clear. But I just wanted to know if this opportunity leaves out the other financial
not the credit unions, but it's for the other banks with their management structure and leadership
and their corresponding bank
to
make those negotiations.
It's a broader conversation than
so it's up to them to make those
and some in particular in many islands aren't willing to make that leap.
I just want to talk about St. Vincent and
of the risk. No, I'm talking about from conversations that we have had.
Fine. My question was, I wanted to find out if how other financial institutions in St. Vincent and the Grenadines could benefit in the same way that the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is benefiting. That's all
I wouldn't go out and say benefit. I would say that the bank did its
It's
work.
a benefit. It's a benefit. Anything to do with money,
I would
where
say
they're doing things, is a benefit to the institution. Anyway, we have kind of, I don't know if you noticed that Karen is here. Which is a signal
before I leave,
no, we're not quite leaving yet. But
Okay.
Karen, you're supposed to line up something for you. Yeah. Yes. So go ahead, Mark.
No, I wanted to extend gratitude before I leave.
Oh no, you get a chance
Okay,
to do that.
okay,
I'm not-
good.
not,
All right.
Yeah, because well, first of all, as we are in the process of winding up, I need to go back to that discussion we had earlier on. I was looking for the document, Representation of the People Act, which I have found, and I just want to read this section that applies to the discussion that we had before. And this is what it says. Clause number 7, in the Representation of the People Act, 1982, it says, clause number 7 says, every person registered as a voter pursuant to this part shall remain registered unless and until his name is deleted from the register because of A, he has died, or B, an objection to his registration has been allowed, or C, and this is what I was talking about, he has been absent from the state of St. Vincent and the Grenadines for a period exceeding 5 years, except in cases of absence for approved studies abroad, or has been disqualified under any law for the registration or for exercising his right as a voter. So the one which we were debating was the one to do with being away for 5 years, at least 5 years, and it doesn't stipulate any disruption or intervening
Or
kind
consecutive
of
period.
Yeah.
Right?
So that is where Anthony was saying, Tony Anthony was saying, it's a fairly weak section there, the law.
Yes, it is.
Because a person can come in several times, one or several times in that period of 5 years, which makes this kind of null and void.
Right.
Yeah. So if people wish to, they may wish to question it further. So Gerald, you were asking, would it raise the question of, what did you say, resident or domicile? Did you?
Yeah, but we can come back to it.
Yeah.
I have a question.
And let me just finish this thing, because somebody was asking, how do you define out of the country? But that's not in the law.
Be absent from the country.
Yeah, well, Yes, go ahead. Joel, you were saying.
Oh yes, I just wanted to ask. My closing question has to do with we talked about medicinal cannabis.
Yeah.
And does your mandate include, or can it be expanded to medicinal soursop or medicinal other products? Because we know more and more now about health and using natural remedies and so on. So I just wonder if your scope and mandate is.
Yes, as a matter of fact, we have developed what we call several strategic industry plans. SIP, Strategic Industry Plan 3.0, focused a lot on that industry, looking at our route. You won't imagine the benefits of our route, and then those things like soursop and guava leaf. Now, I have a particular interest on that. I must plug that because of the Prospect Mangrove Conservation Park.
Yes.
And we focus a lot on that. Now, they will be there at Cannabis. We're having a 20 by 20 tent, and you'll be seeing a lot of displays that's featuring that. The Bureau of Standard and several other entities are also engaged in that, but it's something that we definitely have been looking at And we've had some serious discussions on that. It's something that really needs to be pushed forward. And I'm glad you brought it up because I think it is important. In relation to medicine, though, the research has been substantial, but there may not be the definitive research we call randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled studies that are done on these things to say definitely it works for this and it works for that. Like, I mean, I'm big on plants like Congolala and DTPI, you know? These are plants out of Spring Village and Cumberland. People in that area would know about them. So that tourism industry, I'm sure those two plants and their medical benefits are going to be featured. But it's a big area, and the time doesn't allow us to.
But is
to
it
dig
featured they're going to be featured at the exhibition?
There is going to be a display by an entity called Prospect Mangrove Conservation Park.
Also, that entity will bring those things on display.
That entity we bring those.
Okay, all right.
So, for all disclosure, that entity is
Thompson Company.
It's not Thompson Company.
Sorry, it's the entity.
It is much better defined.
All right. Sorry about that. I was just
sorry. I had to give that plug there.
All right. So we have basically exhausted the areas of our discussion today on how would you sum up what's going to happen between the second.
You talk first.
We don't have another time.
I know.
The second to the fifth. Conferences, education, expo, we're showcasing not just our medicinal cannabis industry, but a lot of made in Vinci products. Vincentian chocolate, we're showcasing our root, we're showcasing our sour sap, we're showcasing so many things. Breadfruit, so many things made in Vinci.
Right,
and we have the consort and we have the catamaran cruise. But I must express gratitude before I leave. I want to thank the staff of the Medicinal Cannabis Authority for the hard work. We've been planning since January, meeting every day to detail this. But I also want to say that we haven't come this far on our own. I must big up the Tourism Authority. I must big up Peter Edward at Laview and the Laview Boutique Hotel. I must big up the Royal St. Vincent and Grenadines Police Force, API, VC3, all the agencies of government that have been so supportive. I want to hail up the cabinet of St. Vincent and Grenadines for their full support of cannabis, which has made it so easy for us. The board of directors led by Lenny Adams. And I want to...
You'll have to come back.
Give me 1 minute.
Let me just call a few of the sponsors because we are so appreciative.
Right, so go quickly.
Bank of St. Vincent and Grenadines, Kingston Credit Union, Zero Hunger Trust Fund, National Lotteries, Farmer Support Company, Roy's Pharmacy, Medicinal Cannabis Company, Kana SVG, K Group, all of our sponsors who I didn't listen, we are appreciative of the support you have given to cannabis, and together we will make Cannabis SVG Festival an experience like no other. Thank you.
All right.
Me ending, let me say, the world is changing. Within a very short space of time, we could see major competition from entities who once were the biggest opponent of cannabis, actually rescheduling cannabis, and we may see cannabis coming on in barrels, visitors bringing it on in their bags, people shipping it down thinking that because it's legal in that country, it's going to be legal in the rest of the world. We should expect, but the thing is that St. Vincent has built a profile of being one of the best. I got to say this.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because that's all I want to say. Because we one of the best. I think cannabis is going to showcase really what we have to offer and that we can withstand them. That's why we're focusing on quality and interregional trade.
All right.
We have to make sure that the Caribbean doesn't become a dumping ground for products from elsewhere that basically we could supply ourselves.
All right. So I was forcing us to go out with the sound of one of the artists.
Some sell out and a sweep from Satan backyard. because of Babylon strategy. God give me the strength and the power and the energy. Them will assassinate me like John F. Kennedy. Lyrics me use I heal the road. That have me remedy. The road might be rough and things might be rugged.
All right, so we have had a very long discussion today. I think very productive. We've covered so many points, so many issues. I hope the persons who are following are able to make sense of what we said today. And we invite you, as usual, to join us again for another discussion next week. In the meantime, we thank our guests who have been here, Dr. Thompson and Mr. Mapp, Philbert Mapp. And we want to thank also Star FM, Star Radio for linking with us today. And the sole caller this morning, Idisha, thank you very much for your suggestions and your ideas. Sorry, how can I say the sole caller? Mr. Weeks, of course, for his, as usual, very informed, intelligent contribution to our program. Thank you very much. On behalf of Joel, Philbert, and Kieran, my name is Cecil. Good afternoon.